Right, back wall's on. Still need to do the contours down the bottom, but I'm gonna try and get a, well, I'm not gonna try, I'm gonna get a quarter on that side. Now, I'll just shuffle this out of the way. You might be able to see there. This needs to be extended down to bottom of sill. Well, that's what I'm chasing anyway. And then I think, well, I don't think, I know that my sill is going to be short by about 20 or 30 mil, which is annoying, but whatever. It's metal, you can join it. I couldn't foresee that when I was doing the sills. If I was an intelligent man, I would have made them 400 longer and then you'd have no trouble, but whatever. It was 1200 sheet, made sense. I do, actually, having said that, I do have the first variant of the, I made up one sill, so I should be able to section that out and just add a bit on. I think that's the same profile. Anyway, so I'm going to replace the majority of this. That's my aim anyway. And obviously with the, whatever that needs to be longer, I need minimum 100 mil, so I'll add, well, I need to add 100 or so there. Well, let's just say 150 for a bit of wastage, and an extra 150. So I might make a piece at like 800. That way, I should have enough for both sides when I dock it off. So, first of all, I'm gonna just use my profile gauge to get the profile. Now, both of these have been buckled. Well, this one's not too bad now. I've had a bit of a tinker with it, but this one's all bent out of shape. So I'm gonna get my profile from the most rigid part of this whole panel, which is in here. So obviously I'm gonna come up into where the radius finishes, but I don't want to move too far down because the further it goes down, the further it flares out and becomes buckled. So somewhere about there is where I reckon I want it. So that's a basic radius there. I'm going to transfer that to some cardboard. It's going to be my best. Where was that? So that point. Just get a square and see if it is actually square. It is not square, which is all good. It's just more of a curious investigation. So I know that's not going to be correct, but we'll get some skizzers. And just cut that, and then we'll fine tune it. Now I really would like a sheet metal roller for this job, but not super sure I actually need it for a lot, so it's not bad. There is not too bad of a template. So if we put that there, it's horrible. So that's what I mean by it fanning out. We want that consistent. for obvious reasons. I'm a bit intrigued to see what it's actually pretty good from side to side, so that's good news. So that's our radius. I've just marked on it back wall and door, just so I know which end is which. It is kind of obvious anyway, but never be too careful. Well, I just pulled myself up there. I was almost about to kilo that piece off and remembered that we are more than likely going to be stretching these quarters by 50 mil. So I need to take into consideration that with this. Now, obvious or not, I'm going to make that 50 mil extension down the flattest, straightest part of the panel, down there. So I'm going to incorporate that extra length into this bottom section straight away. I think that's the best way of doing it. I'm not sure if that will cause more distortion than running a 50 mil strip right the way along after the fact, but it makes sense to me to do it like this. So yeah, I just need to make sure instead of, I think I said 350, I said 300, I'll put 350 or 360 or something like that in there. That way we've got some more length. We can always use some more length. All right guys, I'm a little bit lost on where I was, but I think this is a couple days later from the last clip. But I think we were working on this other quarter panel. Now, I think I was marking up to replace the radius section. Bear with me for 1 second. I managed to use a slip roller of a mate's. Matt, thank you very much. I think you watched a few of these, but slip roller is basically a way to form, I should show you a picture, show you what it is, to form a curve. It's not the greatest. Let's go to the whiteboard. We'll get rid of my highly technical sum here. Slip roller consists of 3 rollers, somewhat like that. There's one in there somewhere. So your sheet will go between here and here. So you'll put it in basically there. And then this, well, there's a few different ways. Basically, one of the rollers has got like a screw on it and goes down. Some on the top, some are the one that I used. This one went in like that, and the other 2 were stationary. But effectively, it's the same concept. The problem with this one that I was using is it's a relatively cheap one. You can spend, you know, thousands of dollars on a slip roller. This is a 3-in-1 machine. Still very, very, very handy to have in the shed. But what we think was happening was this, with the tension, this roller didn't have enough strength in it, and it was getting a slight bow upwards, which in turn gives you a different radius in the middle because there's not the same amount of tension here as there is on the ends. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But yeah, effectively put your sheet in, and then if you want to get a tighter and tighter radius, you would adjust your handles and screw this down to get a consistent curve. You want to do these like literally the same amount. So if you go 1 turn, you go this one 1 turn as well. If you wanted to make a cone, you would, I'm pretty sure you would just operate 1. So it would tighten this radius, but this one would stay wider, which would then form a cone. But I'll show you what I mean by an inconsistent piece of sheet. So we'll grab both of these. So I made enough to replace that side as well. I think I ran through Y. So I don't know if you can see that. If I run it down the lens, you may see that the middle isn't a super consistent. Both ends are pretty good as far as to each other, but you can see there's a few deviations. I don't think that'll be an issue because now that it's sort of formed, I think I can manipulate it enough to get it, perfect. So I'll grab my template here. Oh, the old shin bone on the shrinker stretcher trick. That's always a good one. Oh, it tickled actually. Anywho. So you can see here that this is it's overformed, which I'm happy about. It's easier to probably spread it a bit than it is to tension it back up. But in the middle, we're looking pretty damn good. Needs to be flared a little bit, but like I said, that there is like Spadunski, happy days. But we're pretty good. This end, like once again, pretty well bang on. So even with a machine that wasn't 100% perfect, because of that issue I was telling you about, I still wouldn't have been able to make it even this consistent without that. So massive thank you to Matt. And it was a bit of a learning curve for me too, so pun intended. So I think is what we might do is cut this in half. So we've got enough for both, left and right, and then we'll start to manipulate it so it's perfect with this. It'll just be easier with, will it? Yeah, I think it will. Yeah, I think we'll dock it in half and then we'll play around with one. I think I might put it sort of clamp it in the press and just like manipulate it by hand, massage it, if you will. Put a consistent line here. So this here edge is parallel to this one. When I gillet it off, it was a perfectly square piece. All I've done now is dock it in half. It doesn't really matter what the ends are doing because they need to be still altered anyway. So the important part is that this is parallel to this. So this line here is also parallel to this. The reason I've put that on there is because my template, I've got like, it doesn't have to be super accurate as far as onto the panel right now, but I'll put a line here where my door edge is, where I'll make that break. So with that line there, I can match that up with that line for my door edge, which is pretty good. Like I'm pretty happy with that for this. That's like almost perfect. But it also looks perfect here. But you can see, well, you may be able to see, that I'm still 15 mil away from being a perfectly parallel rolled piece of panel steel. So when I go to line that mark up, all of a sudden, it's not great at all. And this is what I was talking about because this was the middle of the 1200 piece, because it wasn't consistent right the way along it, that is where it becomes an issue. Although you're looking at that, you'd think, oh sweet, perfect. You run the guide up it, the template, it's all sweet. But then you put a line and realise that, oh, hang on a second, we're way out. It's not super difficult to fix that, but it's got to be fixed. So I've mimicked that line over there. I'm going to put it over here as just to act as a clamp in the brake press. The only reason I put them other lines, transferred them onto this side, is just to keep it parallel. And now I'll just gently, good thing about that is if I could probably cut this down a fraction and still put my gauge on it, I might do that. Now I can still run my gauge through there. So yeah, that's pretty good. Well, really good actually. So I just need to work on this side. It's a lot easier with that clamped in there. I'm nearly perfect already. Beautiful. All right, that can come out of there. Yeah, everything about that looks so much nicer. But without having that slip roller to do that to start with, getting it like looking like that, consistent, like that took me maybe 10 minutes at best, at the most. So pretty happy. I wonder what it looks like. Well, that's not going to. All right, now we need to sit it over this panel, work out how much extra we need to hang down to cover the sill, cut it off, get my break points, fold them, and then we can stitch it on. And that'll be, I've also come to over the day or last day or so, this stupid flange that's given me the shits for the last week on these other bits. I'm gonna cut that off. It serves no purpose to me. I'm talking about this little return here, this 5mm one. It doesn't do anything. There's enough rigidity from this break here and also the back wall to hold that together. Any other seam that we've had in there doesn't have that second break. I don't really know. Maybe it's to stop a sharp edge in cab, but yeah, I can't see the real need for it. It's going. That way things will be really nice to deal with. So yeah, we'll lay this over, work out how much we need. I think it was 100mm. Cut it off, stitch it on.